Welcome to 2.2's Math Moment. Today students learned about decimal numbers to the thousands. We're going to look at a couple different examples. The first one says to write a decimal for each word name. The first word name I have is 8,000ths. This is different than 8,000 because we're talking about decimals whenever I have a TH at the end of my word. So 8,000ths I'm going to write in number form. So I always start with the 0 in the ones place because a decimal is less than a whole. So I don't have anything in my ones place. And then I have 8,000ths. I know that the first spot after the decimal is the tenths. The next spot is the hundredths. And the third spot over is the thousandths. A trick that I tell students is that you want to have the number look exactly how you would normally write it, but it just goes in the spot that it belongs. So I'm going to have an 8 in my thousandths place to show 8,000ths. Everything else I fill with zeros. So this number shows 0 in 8,000ths. The next example says 6,000, so now we're talking whole numbers, 6,073 and 26 hundredths. I know that whenever I see the word and, that means that that's where my decimal point is going to be. So I have 6,073. I'm going to write that first. 6,073. And 26 hundredths. Again, I know that this is 10 and this is hundredths. And I want my number 26 to look like a 26 as long as the last number is in the hundredths place. This looks like a 26 and the last number is in the hundredths place. So this shows 6,073 and 26 hundredths. The next example says to write each amount as a decimal number. Right now these are shown as fractions. I have a whole number, 89, and 17 hundredths. I tell students that when you say fractions, 17 hundredths, notice that you're also saying it like you would a decimal. So I've got 89 and, is where my decimal point comes in, 17 hundredths. I want my 17 to look just like it would, but I want the last number in the hundredths place. 89 and 17 hundredths. The next one is 54 and 2 tenths. Again, I hear that TH at the end to tell me I'm working with part of a whole, a decimal or a fraction. 54 and my tenths place is the first spot after the decimal, and I just want my 2 to look exactly like it normally would in the tenths place. And the last problem is 9 and 8,000ths. So I have 9 as my whole number, and I want my 8 to go in the thousandths place. 10, hundredths, thousandths. So my 8 belongs in the thousandths place, and then zeros fill in the rest of the spots. Our next example says to circle the value that is not equivalent to the other values. The word equivalent we learned in Unit 1 means equal. So I'm looking for the value that is not equal to the others. A good strategy to do this with decimals is to draw all of your decimal points in a line. I have 3 decimals, so I have 3 decimal points. Now I'm going to copy over my numbers. The first one is 14 and 6 tenths, 14 and 6 hundredths, 14 and 60 hundredths. I've taken care of all of them and just moved them over here. What we ask students to do is to look and see which numbers are the same in the columns. So all the 1s are the same, all the 4s are the same, the decimal spots are lined up. Then I see this column and it has a 6, a 0, and a 6. That tells me that this middle number, 14 and 6 hundredths, is not the same as the other 2. Another rule that students learned this week is that 14.6 and 14.60, or 14 and 6 tenths and 14 and 60 hundredths, are the exact same number, because the 0 can just roll off the back. If there's not a decimal point or another number holding a 0 in, it could roll off the back to make an equivalent number. So students could use either strategy to help them figure out a question like this. If you have any other questions about 2.2, ask your teacher.